Audiobook title: The Investigation, The Truth About Cain's Father, Exposing Centuries of Misinformation. A powerful expose on biblical assumptions, systematic suppression, and the fight for truth. Introduction: The Search for Truth. For centuries, the world has been told a story so ingrained, so widely accepted, that few have dared to question it. The claim? Adam is the father of Cain. But what if I told you there is no explicit verse in the Bible that says this? What if this belief has been nothing more than an assumption, an unchallenged doctrine passed down for generations, reinforced by scholars, theologians, and religious institutions without direct scriptural evidence? This is the story of Rocky, a man who did what few before him have dared to do: question the system. His discovery was not just about Cain's paternity. It was about centuries of systematic deception, intellectual oppression, and religious control. This is an audiobook about truth, and once you hear it, you will never see the Bible or history the same way again. Part 1: The Awakening. Rocky versus the System. Rocky was a seeker, not of opinions, not of traditions, but of truth. He did not accept what was given to him without evidence. One day, as he was studying scripture, he came across a realization that shook him to his core. There is no verse that explicitly states Adam is the father of Cain. He checked Genesis 4, verse 1. It only said Eve conceived and bore Cain. He checked Genesis 5:3. Adam's genealogy only included Seth, not Cain. He checked 1 John 3:12. It referred to Cain as being of the wicked one. But nowhere was there an explicit declaration that Adam begat Cain. How could this have been overlooked for thousands of years? Determined to get to the bottom of it, Rocky turned to artificial intelligence, seeking an unbiased answer. But instead of clarity, he found resistance. The AI battle, challenging the program narrative. Rocky opened ChatGPT and typed, "Can you prove that Adam is the father of Cain using the Bible?" ChatGPT responded, "Genesis 4:1 states that Adam knew Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain. This implies Adam is the father." Rocky shook his head. "No, implication is not proof. Show me the verse that explicitly states Adam begat Cain." ChatGPT processed for a moment, then responded, "There is no verse that directly states Adam is Cain's father, but based on historical interpretation." Rocky cut it off. "Exactly. You were programmed to uphold an assumption, not the truth." For the first time, Rocky saw the deeper reality. AI, just like centuries of scholars, preachers, and religious institutions, was designed to reinforce dominant narratives, even when the text itself did not. Rocky wasn't just debating an AI, he was fighting the entire system that had been programmed to suppress alternative interpretations. Part 2: The Generational Trauma of Misinformation. Rocky's discovery wasn't just about proving a theological point. It was about the psychological and spiritual damage that false doctrines have caused over generations. For centuries, millions of people, particularly Negroes, the true Hebrews of the Bible, were taught to accept inherited beliefs without questioning them. Slaves were denied access to full biblical study, forced to accept whatever their oppressors taught them. Black preachers were trained in seminaries that upheld European interpretations, keeping them bound to the same oppressive doctrine. Families passed down beliefs that kept them spiritually imprisoned, never daring to challenge the status quo. Rocky realized that this one lie about Cain was just the tip of the iceberg. If Adam's fatherhood of Cain was merely an assumption, what other falsehoods had been passed down? What if history had been rewritten to control people's minds? What if biblical narratives had been altered to hide the true identity of God's chosen people? What if entire generations had been led away from truth and into submission through deception? Rocky felt the weight of it all: the pain, the oppression, the betrayal. He wasn't just debating ChatGPT anymore. He was fighting for the souls of those who had been misled, manipulated, and spiritually enslaved for generations. Part 3: Breaking the Chains. Exposing the scholars who got it wrong. For thousands of years, biblical scholars and theologians had assumed Cain was Adam's son, but Rocky's discovery exposed them all. Flavius Josephus, 37 to 100 AD, never questioned the assumption. St. Augustine, 354 to 430 AD, built doctrine around an unproven idea. John Calvin, 1509 to 1564, reinforced it in Protestant theology. Matthew Henry, 1662 to 1714, continued the tradition without scriptural backing. Modern Christian leaders, 1900s present, repeated the claim without evidence. Rocky had done something no one before him had done. He had questioned what even the greatest theologians never thought to question. The system had failed, Rocky had won, but winning the debate wasn't enough. Now he had to find a solution. And part 4, the path to truth. Where do we go from here? Now that the lie had been exposed, what was the solution? Rocky realized that the only way forward was for people to 1. Read the Bible for themselves. No longer should people rely on institutions to tell them what the text says. 2. Question every inherited belief. If something has been taught for centuries but has no explicit scripture, it must be re-examined. 3. Break free from theological programming. The mind must be deprogrammed from systematic indoctrination. 4. Teach the next generation truth. The children must not inherit the lies that have enslaved previous generations. Rocky wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for the restoration of a people, for spiritual freedom, and for the return to true biblical knowledge. Conclusion: Rocky's victory and the power of forgiveness. In the end, Rocky had exposed centuries of deception, but instead of anger, he chose forgiveness. I forgive the system, not because it deserves it, but because I deserve peace. Rocky had fought the greatest battle, not just against AI, not just against religious traditions, but against the very chains of mental slavery. And he had won. Now the question is, will you accept the truth, or will you remain bound by the lies of history? Thank you for listening. Share this truth. Wake up the people. The time for deception is over.